we've talked on the podcast before about the past of the Joyce Tower, when it was built, Joyce's time there, all the kind of stuff you'd expect to learn from a museum. But I think what I'd like to talk to you about is the future of the museum, the tower and the museum, and even more broadly about buildings in Dublin, if you feel comfortable talking about that. And I think I knew that was my intention, but the green building really made me think about the effects of things like climate change on the museum in Sandycove. Is climate change something that you're at all thinking about affecting the tower into the future, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think anyone who's worked in construction or in sustainability, would be cognizant of the future of buildings is kind of insecure. This particular building is right on the coast, and as you can imagine, most of the coast of Dublin, by 2050, if you do your kind of climate maps, will be underwater. I mean, we're lucky in this particular tower in that, it's slightly raised. It's on the hill on Sandycove Point, which is obviously strategically the best place to put your tower if you're defending from Napoleon. So it might mean that this tower will sit above the water. You could imagine that the rising sea water, that this tower might be slightly above, but really it's in an area that is kind of predicted to be affected by rising sea levels. So that is definitely something that we're thinking about. But your wider point about buildings in Dublin and our cultural heritage is a really important one. Heritage buildings in Dublin are a great resource, and we have to think carefully about protecting them from a conservation point of view.
Is there anything else to backtrack to what we were talking about before? Is there anything else that you want to do with the tower, given your background in green building, that maybe I haven't asked about yet?
Yeah, no, I think that's the main thing is, we're interested in the water ingress, but I suppose the other main thing is around accessibility, so we want to try and make it as accessible for as many people as possible. So, that obviously it'll be difficult for people with mobility issues going up the spiral staircase, but, even, there are steps coming up to the extension. There's also steps going into the tower, so I'm looking at, making that more accessible for wheelchair users and for people with reduced mobility. So just really to make it as accessible as possible.